I'm Delo Blau. I'm the director of the Office of International Services, and I am joined by Sarah Jones, the associate director, and Richard Sherman, the assistant director. Sarah and Richard are going to access or give you information on a lot of your questions. So the first question goes to Sarah. It's about traveling. Question, Sarah. I have family in Colorado, and my parents want me to go there, but you have advised that I remain in Pittsburgh. What should I do?
So you can certainly go be with your family in the United States. We had originally said to stay in Pittsburgh, but really what we mean is that you can stay anywhere in the United States, and that would be fine. So if you do have relatives within the United States that you would feel more comfortable with, you can certainly go there and finish out the term.
Okay. Next question to Richard. It's about the online courses.
Okay.
Richard, I am an undergrad student. Can I complete everything online, including final exams?
It's all right. So you can complete the majority of your coursework online. We don't see an issue with that. What could be complicated would be things like labs or practicums, and we're advising students to check with their instructors and academic departments just because there's a physical component to those labs, just to see what type of accommodations would be made.
Okay. How about if I'm a graduate research student? Can I complete everything online?
So with graduate students, it can be a little bit more tricky just because there are many graduate students who complete research credits, and there may be some expectations about conducting that research in person, things like that. So we are advising those graduate students in particular to wait for some additional guidance from their academic departments, and we advise them not to leave the U.S. until they've had that conversation and confirmation from the department that you would not need to be physically present to complete those course requirements.
Okay. Thank you, Richard.
Sure.
Sarah, this question goes to you, and there's going to be a couple of questions about the 5-month rule. So the first question is, when does that 5-month rule begin?
Right, so as a reminder, what we just said was that anytime an international student is outside the United States for more than 5 months, you would be required to get a new I-20 before you can re-enter. So the 5 months starts on the day that you depart the United States. So if you leave this country on March 15th, you would need to return right before August 15th. I would not, if scheduling flights and you're trying to get back in before the 5 months, I would not wait until that day of August 15th. I would come in a few days before, just in case of travel delays and hiccups there. The big thing is that we really don't know what travel bans will be in place at that time, and so that's why we're leaning on the previous guidance to just stay in the United States if you can. But 5 months starts the day that you leave this country.
Okay, so if I get a new I-20, will I also need a new visa?
If you get a new I-20, you should still be able to use the current valid visa in your passport.
Okay. So you say that the 5-month rule might have implications for CPT and OPT. What are they?
So this is really important, particularly for our people who are planning to graduate in December of 2020. In most circumstances, OPT and CPT do require a student to be in status for a full academic year before you participate in CPT, OPT. If you have to enter the country on a new I-20, that clock starts again. So for our December grads who are planning on doing this right after graduation in December, you would only have one new term of enrollment, and that could put that in jeopardy. If you don't plan to participate in OPT or CPT till April of 2021, you shouldn't have any problems.
Okay. Richard, question for you. What housing will be available to me in the summer if I do stay here?
Okay. So housing in the summer will be available for those folks who need it. Okay. Now there will be food food options available. They will be limited. Perhaps some of you have seen the dining options on Dining Services website. Just with many students not being physically present on campus, it's not at kind of full capacity. So the university is trying to negotiate with some different restaurants in Oakland to try to make the Panther dollars more acceptable in different places to give students more options. And many students are concerned about the cost, right? Well, so the university is working on financial assistance, and we are working out the details about what that process would look like to perhaps apply for those funds. Yeah.
Okay. Sarah, I'm staying on campus, but I'm concerned about cleanliness in keeping the virus from spreading, particularly because students now are coming back from spring break from all over. What is Pitt doing about cleaning common spaces?
Yes, we have been told that housekeepers are disinfecting all communal restrooms daily. They're also going to be paying close attention to high touch points, doorknobs, handles, railings. They're focusing on that. And then they're going to continue cleaning the restrooms as per normal standard procedures with a big emphasis on disinfectant. But I think it's important to keep in mind that we can all play a role in this as well, that we should all be assisting in ways that we can. So you're encouraged to wipe off touch points that you're seeing and being near on a regular basis, particularly prior to and after you've utilized common facilities. And of course, wash your hands often, use hand sanitizer, but also wipe things down after you've used them. Yeah.
Okay. Richard, question about health insurance.
Sure.
My health insurance has lapsed. It has ended, and I'm currently not covered. What can I do?
Okay. So if you're planning on remaining in the United States, we are urging everyone to purchase insurance. So folks could purchase insurance on, they could find, we have some insurance options listed on our website. You can also purchase the Pitt or the UPMC insurance sponsored by the university. That would be retroactive to January of this year if you don't have insurance now. And if your insurance will end at the end of the term in April, then you would be able to purchase additional UPMC or insurance through the university to the end of the summer.
Okay, thank you. Now we're going to get to some of the questions that we've seen on the chat. I'm going to try and start at the top and go through them. I've seen a couple of questions. Sarah, I'll direct this one to you. I've seen a couple of questions about whether or not the OIS office is going to be closed and whether or not we're going to be available for I20 signatures. Could you respond to that?
Yes, I can. So until further notice, for the time being, OIS is open. We understand that a lot of you may need to come in and get signatures. So normally we have walk-in hours on Mondays and Thursdays. We're talking right now about opening that up, and likely this coming week, we are going to likely just open up our doors for people on an as-needed basis throughout the day. Our normal business hours will still be 9 o'clock in the morning to 4:30 in the afternoon, but anybody who needs to come get a travel signature can do so outside of normal walk-in hours. If at any point the Office of International Services closes physically, staff will still be working. We have a number of methods and measures to be able to work from home if we have to, and this would include all of our normal services. We're not going there yet, but if we need to, we are prepared to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Richard, here's a question about a visa that is going to be expiring. So this person plans to stay in the U.S. over the summer, and is concerned that they won't be able to renew their visa. And so they're concerned about what that might mean for their OPT application with Pitt.
Oh, okay. Great question. So now, remember the F1 visa stamp, or if you're a J1 student, the J1 visa stamp only needs to be valid when you enter the United States, right? So if your I-20 has a end date in the future, whether that's next term, next year, next 2 years, or even if you are applying for OPT and your F1 visa stamp has expired, then there's not an issue because your I-20 determines the amount of time that you can remain inside of the United States, right? So I know I've spoken with many students who are concerned to say, okay, if I stay here during the summer, but my visa has expired, or hey, I'm graduating this term, I'm moving on to a different school, and I want to stay in the U.S., could I stay in the U.S. While I wait for my record to be sent to a different school? And the answer is yes, you can stay inside of the United States. You are maintaining your F1 status because you'll be getting that new I-20 from the new school.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
There's a question here about getting tested for the COVID virus if you have concerns.
Mm-hmm. So if you're experiencing what you think might be symptoms of COVID-19, which is a fairly high fever, shortness of breath, and a dry cough, the very first thing you're supposed to do is call the student health service. Call before you go. They would like to know, and they will have put in special procedures. After that, at some point, they'll be able to get you tested for that.
Okay, here's a question from exchange students, and I will take this one. We're exchange students only here for a year or a semester, so is it recommended to go home? I would say yes. If you were just planning to be here anyway through the end of the semester and you're not interested in returning in the fall, or you're not planning to, then and you can complete your classes at home online, absolutely. I would say we would recommend that you do what's best for you, and if it's possible for you to go home and complete classes online, and as long as you don't have any concern about coming back, absolutely do that. Richard.
Yes.
I'm trying to keep up here. I need to not answer questions, I think.
Okay. Sounds good.
But I'm going to answer this next one. Does our student health center have the capability to do the test? I believe the answer to that is no, but they can certainly tell you where to go if you need that.
Yeah. I'll just add, if I could, Dilo. I know that the student health service would be in touch with the local authorities, right, that are kind of, health departments, things like that. Yeah.
Yeah. All right, Sarah, I'm going to read this one directly to you. I'm not sure I'm understanding the whole thing, so we'll just read it directly from here. I'm graduating this April, plan to find a lab to do research, either be a research assistant or research tech, after the coronavirus is entirely over. If I go home now, which is China, and finish my classes online, is that okay? Will there be a problem concerning my graduation, immigration status, lab application, and all? I'm not planning to return to the U.S. until the travel ban is lifted and the whole coronavirus thing is totally over. If I decide to travel, do I need to fill in any form? It's a long one, and it may be too nuanced to answer here.
No, I'm looking at it too. So the first question is, if I go home now to China and finish your classes online, is that fine? Again, yes, as long as you can connect in and get the work done. We prefer that you stay in the United States, but if you do leave and you can do your classes online, that's okay. Will there be a problem concerning my graduation, immigration status, lab application? I don't know about the application to do research in a lab. I guess you would normally be doing that on OPT, and so if you're outside the country and have to come back in, again, it's that 5-month thing. If you're coming back before 5 months, your I-20 is fine, everything's going normally, you can apply for OPT and all of that. If it's outside of a 5-month period that you're gone, then yes, that will potentially be a problem because you may not be able to apply for OPT. So doing that research in the lab could be an issue. The other thing is, if you do decide to travel, do I need to fill in any form? I think not. I think we have a form on my OIS that people fill out when it's a more permanent departure. We don't really want you to fill that out right now because that's confusing. At some point, we will be communicating. I mean, we'll be communicating with everybody all summer, but one of the emails we're probably going to send out is, did you end up leaving the United States? Calculate your dates. You know, do you need a new document to come back? So we will be kind of keeping track of it that way. I hope that answered all those questions.
Yeah.
If not, contact your immigration advisor directly, and we'll get back with you.
Yeah.
So here's another question, Richard. I think you may have answered this already, but I'm only hearing you out of half an ear. So
okay.
This is another question about a visa potentially expiring and scheduling a visa appointment in China. But they're asking, if you're going to transfer to another school, can I simply transfer my I-20 from Pitt to my new school? So that's one question, and I will say the answer is yes, and you don't need a visa for that. So that's the answer to that one. You do not need a visa. Even if it's expired, you can just transfer from one to the other as long as you're in the United States. But then the next question is, if I decide to go back to China during the summer and come back to the U.S. before the fall, assuming you can get in, because there might still be that travel ban, we don't know, can I use my old visa to come back in on the new I-20?
Right. As long as that, so the practical example would be this. So let's say if you are transferring to Carnegie Mellon, our friends down the street, and your Pitt F1 visa stamp is still valid, right? And you're transferring, perhaps you've completed your bachelor's degree here at Pitt and you're going to do a master's degree program at Carnegie Mellon, and you transfer your record because you're going to start your classes at Carnegie Mellon in the fall, you can still use the F1 visa stamp, even though it says University of Pittsburgh on it. As long as it's still valid, you can use that same F1 visa stamp when you re-enter the United States, but you'll also need your new I-20 from your new school, right? So in that scenario, the student would need the new I-20 from Carnegie Mellon and could still use the old F1 visa stamp as long as it's still valid.
Okay, thank you. Sarah, I'm an international student from Russia. Are you advising us to stay on campus for the whole summer?
Yes, we are. Yes, housing will be available throughout the summer, as well as certain dining services.
Okay. And again, the rationale behind that is because we don't know, even though Russia right now is not on any kind of banned list from coming back in, we do not know what's going to happen. So if you want to complete your education and want to continue on without interruption, your best bet is to stay in the U.S. What about graduation, Richard? I'm not sure we have an answer to this. I'm a student who will graduate in April. Can I delay my graduation time? I'm looking forward for graduation ceremony for a long time. I really want to take part in my graduation ceremony, and actually I'm going to take that, Richard.
Okay, sure.
I was just reading this morning from I'm not sure who, leadership at Pitt, who was saying that they have not made a decision about graduation yet, but they understand that this is a really big deal for everyone who's graduating.
Yeah.
And they're going to make decisions to the best of their capability for the best of everyone. I can't guarantee anything to you, and I know they can't either, but do please understand that they get your concerns. And so we can't answer that. We don't know what's going to happen, but I will tell you that everyone understands what your concerns are, and everyone wants you to have that experience. Okay.
You know what? Well, Dila, while you're looking through these chat messages, I'm going to say something because I'm seeing them as well.
Okay.
A couple of things. what I'm seeing in some of the questions here, some of these questions can be answered with some information that we have online. So I don't know how many of these we're going to get to today, but if we don't answer your question, I would encourage you to take some time and go through the OIS website a little bit. For instance, I'm seeing a transfer question that can probably be answered on either our website, ois.pitt.edu. There's some fact sheets there. Or if you go into My OIS, which you're all familiar with, if you click on, for example, if you click on the Transfer Out link, it'll give you information there. So after this call over this weekend, if you didn't get your questions answered, and it's not quite directly related to COVID-19, you know, for instance, maybe a transfer question, please go ahead and look at those resources because a lot of them are online. And then after the call, we're going to figure out a way to answer each one of these somehow as soon as we can.
Yeah. Okay, here's a good question. I understand the concern about possibly being denied re-entry into the U.S. in August based on where I've traveled. However, if this problem indeed comes up, could foreign nationals avoid it by traveling to a, quote, unbanned country for 14 days before entering the U.S.? Richard, you want to take that one?
Sure. So I think the challenge there would be how would you document that you have been outside of, or you've been present in a separate country, right? So I think in that situation for a student who is planning on doing that, I would want to say you want to make sure that you would bring documentation with you when you enter the United States, meaning stamps in your passport, copies of your travel itineraries, confirmation of hotels that you stayed in, or if you're staying with family members, for example. I know that could be a little bit tough because you're not going to make a online reservation. But I think making sure that you have that documentation, just because I think the attitude of the officers who are admitting people to the United States would be, they want to get everything done pretty quickly, and so it could be a bit of a challenge. But I think if the documentation shows that you are in an unaffected country for more than 14 days and went directly to the United States, that would be the best option. And Sarah and Dilo, feel free to.
No, that's absolutely right. If you can do the third country for 14 or more days, and Richard's right, make sure you can document that, which you should be able to do with the stamps in your passport. But it's also a good idea to have things like hotel reservations and that kind of thing. But yes, if you're in a third country for 14 days, as the travel bans stand right now, then that would satisfy it, and you'd be able to come back in.
Yeah. Just Dilo, as you kind of scroll through, I know there was one great question that asked about CPT requests, right? We know that many students will do internships during the summer, and that won't change. We'll continue to receive those requests normally and evaluate them. We don't see any issues there for our continuing students who have internship possibilities and who are applying for CPT.
I'm also going to jump in too, Dilo. I'm seeing some people on here that are from the regional campuses.
Okay.
I recognize some of your names. And there's questions about, for instance, dining options. Is that something that's happening on the Pitt regional campuses as well? We don't know that answer for sure. I think it's really important to touch base with somebody on the regional campus and inquire. And we are doing the same thing. I'm going to be trying to reach out to people this week and confirm what's available for our international students on the regional campuses as well. So we're thinking about it, and we will get to those students.
Thank you, Sarah. And I'm going to tell both you, Richard and Sarah, how about we do it this way, because I'm going to answer a question too. How about if we all just go to the next question and take questions as they come? Okay. So the question that I was going to answer is one about staying here for the summer. Will you provide housing? And then you also talk about I did not apply for a job on campus since I was planning on returning to my country for the summer. As we already said, yes, we will. There will be housing available on campus. And I also can tell you that I've been in meetings where we're talking, and the campus community is talking about making jobs available to those of you who need them. Everyone recognizes that this is a situation where a lot of people are affected financially and with housing, and the university really does want to make as much available as possible. So I can't guarantee anything. I don't know exactly what it's going to look like, but I do know that there will be more jobs than normal open up, assuming we're all in business and operating as usual. My expectation is that there will be additional jobs for you to apply for and be able to work on campus, even if you haven't already applied. Anybody have another question?
Yeah, I'll jump into one question if you guys want to look at some others. So there have been a couple of questions about, all right, if I want to take a leave of absence for the fall term, right? Meaning either I can't or I won't be back to Pitt for the fall term, then what is the procedure to receive a new I-20 from Pitt, right? So for your return, and the reason why we have to create a new I-20 for students is just because with the if you're not enrolled in the fall term, or if there is that gap of more than 5 months, we would have to create just a new entry into the government's database. Okay, so the process is somewhat similar to when you first arrived at Pitt, but you would be working directly with OIS to create the new I-20, and there are two main components to this. One, we would ask you to receive a brief letter, and we would have templates to help this out, to help you out with this. A brief letter from your academic advisor or your department to say that you are eligible to enroll in courses and your estimated completion date. That's number one. Number two is that we would need some updated financial documentation. And then we would, just because the government requires this for us to calculate and to verify that you have enough to cover your estimated cost of attendance in the United States. So then you would submit that information via my OIS directly to us. We would create a new I-20 for you and then work with you when you return back to the United States to do a brief check-in.
Okay.
Yeah.
I see a question here about how long the travel ban is for Schengen countries because the person has a conference to attend. Right now, that ban is 30 days, but as we've said a number of times, we have no guarantee that this is what it's going to remain. President Trump it's been clear that he will make bans that we can't anticipate, and so we don't know. Right now it's 30 days. It could easily change. No guarantees.
I'm seeing questions about summer classes.
Right.
We don't quite know yet. Again, for summer, people who can stay here, we have housing and dining options, but in terms of classes, I think the university is this week dealing with spring term and all the things that have to be taken care of at this moment, and then they will be coming out with information about the summer in terms of will there be classes, will they be online. I'm seeing questions about appointments, academic appointments in the summer, and what are those going to look like. So we'll have to get back to you on that. And again, I'm just going to say as a reminder, some of that information that really is a little bit outside of our purview, everything is going to be on the emergency.pitt.edu website. That should be your main source of information, and it's set up really nicely. You know, information for students is its own tab, information for faculty. So please just start going to that website. That is what the university is using as a central repository for all of these kinds of questions, and then we'll fill in the gaps.
Mm-hmm.
I did see a question here about whether or not this new procedure is going to impact a person who's graduating in April And will it impact OPT? And the answer to that is no. We expect that this term will be completed at the normal time in April, and so if you've already applied for OPT, you can rest assured that that application is going to be going through just as it normally would. If you haven't yet applied, you need to be in touch with your immigration specialist as soon as possible to get that started, but there should be no problem with that at all.
Yeah. I'll jump in on a question about, and this is a great one, about the option if we do create an I-20 for a student, right, CPT or an extension or something like that, do we have the option to mail the new I-20? And the answer is yes. We can work with you to mail the I-20 to you. We do have we've been using a system for a few years, particularly with folks who are away from Pittsburgh and participating in OPT or STEM OPT, that makes things pretty easy so that we can print the mailing label and then send it to students. And Dilo and Sarah, feel free to add anything about that if you want. Yeah.
Going through the rest of these.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody is asking about what kind of housing is happening over the summer. It is housing in the residence halls. Everyone else they're sending home, but they are going to be staffing the residence halls for those people that cannot or should not be leaving. So it is the residence halls. It's not, to my knowledge, going to be any kind of subsidies for off-campus living.
No, they're not talking about subsidies for off-campus living. There is some talk about the possibility of residence halls that include kitchens, so that might be a possibility, but again, plans are just now being made, so we don't know. But we do know that it will be available. There will be something available.
Yeah. I'll just answer. I know Weibai just sent something for us about, would the I-20 still be valid if we leave the U.S. and stay in our home country for less than 5 months? And the answer would be yes. If you're able to come back in 5 months, we don't see an issue. But the challenge there would be if the travel restrictions continue and you're outside of the U.S. for more than 5 months, that would pose a problem. Mm-hmm.
Okay, this is a question about, will there be any influence on my academic grades if I go back home and take courses online? The answer is no. If your courses are being given online and you can access everything from your home country and get your coursework done, it will be processed just the same as it would otherwise. There's a question here from a teaching assistant talking about going home and teaching remotely from a home country. That is something that you would need to talk with your department about. There is a strong desire to make as much online as you can make online, but those kinds of questions, if you have a teaching assistantship through your department, you should go to them to talk with them about what they can accommodate and what they can't. Wow,
Yeah.
what was that?
So Amanda just wrote in just to say if she stays in her home country for less than 5 months and comes back to the U.S., would that have any influence on the OPT? And the answer would be no, because you're maintaining your F1 status. And the question before that would be, well, what happens if I go back to my home country? Everything's okay for right now, but then it appears on a list of countries that wouldn't be able to re-enter the U.S. I think that's why we're advising students really not to travel at this time, just because it's unpredictable about what countries may appear on the list.
Okay. There's a question here from Amy about how long you have to decide if you're going to move back home and out of the dorms. Is there a deadline to move out to get your money back? you should look at the information that Housing has sent you about your checkout procedures. Housing is giving prorated refunds for both housing and food for people who move out. All of that information should be available to you through that office.
So Raheel has a question. Is there any possibility that the U.S. government is going to choose to send international students back to their home country? We have not received any indication of that, and I don't really see that happening. I don't think that's a problem. It makes no sense because people who are here are a little bit less risk. So, no, I don't think that's going to happen.
Yeah.
Here's a question: Who will pay? Who will pay responsible? Who will be responsible for our safety if we stay in the U.S.? We're advising you to stay in the U.S. because we're concerned about your immigration status should you go back home. I want to say very clearly that if you feel you would be more safe in returning back home, and that's where you are feel you're the safest, then please do that. Just make an informed decision about that. That's all we're saying. We want you to be aware of what your decisions might mean down the line for you immigration-wise. Obviously, if you stay on campus, the campus is going to do everything possible to keep things as clean and disinfectant as possible. Like Sarah said before, we'll do everything to ensure your safety, but no one can give you a guarantee. So you need to make the decision that you feel is best for you.
Mm-hmm.
Can we talk to an immigration specialist online? You can always email your immigration specialist. We are also offering phone meetings with your immigration specialist. We are looking into and hope to institute sometime soon web-based meetings with your immigration specialist. Right now, your options are to email, to make an appointment, and to have that appointment by phone if you prefer.
Mm-hmm.
Richard and Sarah, do you have anything to add to that one?
No.
No.
Except, yes, I do. I do
Okay.
have something to add. I would say it is really always best to do what you can to get in touch with your specific immigration specialist instead of emailing, all of us or emailing OIS and then emailing all of us. We all end up paying attention to those emails, so it's not the best use of our time. And definitely your immigration specialist has all the information about your specific schools. That's why we specialize, so we can really become experts in your schools and what's available. So I would encourage you to find out who your immigration specialist is if you don't know. That's listed on our website, and really talk to them during this time, because we will route you to the right person anyway if you end up emailing someone who's not your immigration specialist.
I'm not sure I understand this program. What is OIS doing right now for PIT students who are in travel ban countries? I'm not sure if you mean students who are in countries and can't come back, or who are from countries where there's a travel ban. If you are talking about a student who's in a country where there is a travel ban, we will continue to support you in any way we can. If you are in the position of needing to finish out your classes, you can certainly do that online with anyone else. And we as OIS will continue to provide immigration advice and whatever support we can. There is unfortunately nothing we can do to help you come back into the country, since that is not our call. But we are certainly available to you if you have any additional questions for us.
I'm seeing a few more questions about those people who are going to end up taking a gap semester. So some of you are going to decide that you're going to leave. If for whatever reason you cannot come back for the fall semester, We will be in touch with you about how to get you back for spring, hopefully. We will work with you to gather the documents we need to issue a new I-20. We're going to communicate with people about this over the summer so that we can identify those of you who need it. I really don't think that you'll have trouble getting back. I don't think we see it as being a standard process for returning. So while, again, we can never make any guarantees, we do this for other people as well during a normal course of events, or they take a semester off for whatever reason. So if you are not able to come back for fall term, we will work with you to get you back as soon as we can, hopefully spring 2021.
I'm seeing a couple of questions about wearing masks. Dig70 says, I understand CDC does not recommend wearing masks, but what if we choose to? Is it okay for us? It's absolutely okay for you to. We do, and I see another question later saying that students are being attacked because of that. And I'm first of all sorry about that. You are absolutely encouraged to wear a mask if that makes you feel safer and if you believe it will keep you safer. Please do that. I know that the Dean of Students, everyone around campus has been talking about it, and we're all concerned about the xenophobia that has occurred on campus, and we want to hear from you if you have experiences like this. We want you to be safe. We're trying to get the message out to others that this is not something they should be doing. So I apologize, and yes, please feel free to wear masks if that makes you feel safe.
Yeah.
There's a question about.
Go
ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Go ahead. Nope, you go ahead.
Okay. Thanks, Dilo, for that. Thank you. I'll answer two questions. One from Josh. Hey, Josh, it's Richard. Josh and I have been working together for a while. Anyway, the question about OPT and OPT delays, right? It's hard to predict, but we don't know exactly how the government handles these applications, but typically it's kind of the first one in gets the government's attention. So kind of when you first kind of get in line, that's how we anticipate that it will move throughout the conveyor belt and be reviewed. It's really hard to predict. Last year we did see some slow timing with the OPT approvals, and we don't know what precautions USCIS is taking. If they are working from home remotely, we're not quite sure. So it's hard to predict, but I think getting those applications in sooner rather than later is a good idea. And then Shi-Chen asked about the visa status, just to say that the visa will expire in July this year, and if you don't plan on traveling and perhaps you're in the U.S. with the expired F1 visa stamp on your passport, and the concern would be, well, what if I go back home a year from now, 2 years from now? Would that be viewed as negatively when I reapply for my visa? And the answer is no. We've worked with students throughout my time here at OIS who, for one reason or another, just didn't travel back home, and they were able to reapply for their visa stamp back home. Unfortunately, there is no way for students to apply for a new F1 visa stamp from within the United States. The U.S. government's view is that this is handled by embassies and consulates outside of the United States. So unfortunately, there's really no way to renew that F1 visa stamp from within the United States.
Okay, I'm going to say this. A couple of people have been asking about the health insurance and covering the virus. This is a conversation that has been happening around the United States and with all different health insurances. And I have read things to indicate that all health insurances are strongly encouraged to pay for COVID-related illnesses. I think that's going to continue to be the encouragement. Again, I wish I could. I can't guarantee you anything, but I know that it's conversations that everyone is having. I know that the testing will be covered, and you should not go to the doctor because you are concerned about health insurance. If it comes to it and your health insurance does not cover all your costs and it's causing you financial difficulty, then complete a financial request form and we'll take it into consideration. But I think what I want to strongly urge you is to go to the doctor if you have symptoms, or call the doctor first and then go if they want you to come in. Be tested if you feel you need to be tested. So we're now starting to try and answer some questions on the chat window itself. And this chat, I don't know if Richard and Sarah are finding the same thing, is difficult to navigate just because of the way it jumps back and forth. So if you have asked a question a while back and we haven't gotten to it, please repost it and we'll try and get to it, because we can see the things on the bottom easier than the ones up top further.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'll answer. Hannah asked a question about would her academics be affected by completing the term online? Like, would her grades be affected? And the answer would be no. Just as we mentioned before, just make sure that you follow the instructions that your instructors provide about submitting those course requirements. But as far as the final grade that you get for the term, it would be the same, and just as if you were physically present here at Pitt.
Okay, is there anything we need to prepare before leaving the U.S. If you're going to leave in the next 2 weeks? I would say prepare as you would normally prepare if you're leaving for the summer. Just expect that you're leaving for that amount of time. Take care of whatever you need to take care of in your housing situation. If you need to clean out and store things, that's what you'll need to do now. If you need a travel signature, that's the next question also. My advice is to you is that you come into the OIS office within the next 2 days to be on the safe side, and let us sign your documents. If you can bring them in tomorrow and drop them off and pick them up on Tuesday, that may be what we asked you to do. But if you need that signature, come and get that signature. Mm-hmm. Sarah and Richard, do you have anything to add to that one?
No.
No.
This is the question about the Fulbright program has been canceled and suspended. If they don't renew the DS 2019 in the upcoming months, would Pitt take over the sponsorship? I can't answer that question without knowing a little bit more. That's a personal issue. I will tell you, yeah, I don't know. We would need to look at it. I don't know anything about your current situation, so you should get in touch with us directly and we'll look into it. Again, somebody is asking about university going back to offline mode in the summer. No one knows. We don't know what's going to happen with the virus in Pittsburgh. We don't know. Unfortunately, we don't have an 8-ball to try and figure out what the future is going to be, so we can't say that. Oh, a bunch of them are coming in now.
All right. So I'll grab 2 if that's okay.
Yep.
So sure. So Shahad, let me just scroll up. Asked about facilities on campus such as the library and gym. Will they be operating as normal? The answer is no. There will be some restrictions. I know I use the facilities sometimes. Maybe some of you have seen me at the pool. I'm not a great swimmer. Anyway, there are some my form is terrible, but but there are restrictions on some of the gym facilities. Now, some of them are operational, but it's not kind of campus-wide. Like, so they're similar to dining, right? There will be some limitations in terms of what may be open and what may not be. So that's a great question. I would just say, one, check emergency.pitt.edu. And then I know I was looking at campus recreation for the gym hours just to see when those would be open. The same thing goes for the university library systems. And then Beishan asked a question about new policies for incoming students to apply for their F1 visa stamps on time. So I'll just in case if you have friends or other folks who are interested in or about this process. So at OIS, we are still creating immigration documents for our incoming students as normal. What we can't control would be the availability of appointment times at embassies and consulates across the world. I know recently just some of the embassies and consulates in Italy had quickly kind of ceased operations. So we are just still proceeding as normal to create the documents for students, but and we want students to be able to at least get in line as soon as we can. Yeah.
Yeah, you're asking about living in the dorms and wanting to feel safe from infected individuals coming back to retrieve their things. I don't know if you were on the call earlier when Sarah mentioned that the cleaning folks are going around and disinfecting every residence hall on a daily basis, wiping down common areas, doorknobs, all of that stuff. And we are advising everyone around us, including ourselves, to take as many precautions of our own as we can. So if you can take the responsibility to wipe down things as you before and after you use them, and we all do that, that's going to be our best bet against this virus.
So I want to get back to a student, Pururav. You're asking about how much it's going to cost to stay in the residence halls if you need to this summer. We don't have an exact figure on that, and Dilo, jump in if you know any other information, but to my knowledge, you should probably check with Panther Central to see about that.
Actually, I do have information on that. I can tell you that don't worry about the cost. If you are unable to pay, we will have funds available to people who make application for them. That should not be a consideration for you. Clearly it costs some money to run these things, so my guess is that we would charge something, but if you can't pay, if you have trouble with that, not an issue, we'll make arrangements.
Okay. Frank, I'll answer your question just via the chat.
Who was that to, Frank? Okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. The UPMC health plan, I have been told, it's my understanding, that you are permitted to apply for that UPMC student health plan retroactively to January 1st. I was just given that information this morning. So what I would do is go on to the Pitt page for applying for the health insurance and attempt to do it there. If you have trouble, let me know and we'll try and figure out how we can get it done retroactively, because I was told today that you could do that. What should we do if we can't get back after the end of summer break? Obviously contact us, and then we'll be in that stage of if that's going to make you out of the country longer than 5 months, we'll be at the point where we will, when you're able to come back, issue you a new I-20 and have you come in that way. So Merv, I'm sorry that you weren't part of the conversation. I know we had a limit on the number of people that could join. I will very quickly say we are strongly encouraging everyone to stay here rather than travel. And then I'm going to ask you to go back and view a little bit more about what we've said. We're going to post this webinar online. And if you still have questions, reach out to us. Okay. It's 2 o'clock. I think that we've answered most things that are here. Again, what we will do is post this webinar online. We'll also try and have a Q&A based on these questions that you can access later. If there seems to be interest in it, we can schedule additional webinars next week sometime. So please just reach out to us and let us know, or if you hear from other students, let us know what you need, and we'll try to make it available. Good luck to everyone. Sarah and Richard, do you have any last comments?
No, we're thinking about you all, so.
No.
Yeah.
No, and Amanda's son contacted me directly through chat. Let's continue that conversation via email. I'll just say one other thing for our students who are graduating this term. I know you're presented with a number of kind of difficult choices about what to do, whether just to complete everything on, go back home, complete everything online, and graduate. Some folks are considering applying for OPT. That would be work authorization, 12 months for after you graduate. Some of the OPT specific rules can be tricky in that the government requires you to be physically present to submit an OPT application. So we are happy to work with students as they make their decisions, and we know that you want to make these decisions quickly, so we're doing our best to try to answer your questions as quickly as we can. But OPT is particularly kind of tricky when it comes to that.
If you still have a question after you've looked at this, please send it to ois@pitt.edu, or if it's an immigration-specific question about your situation, send it to your immigration specialist. Okay, everyone, thanks so much for joining us, and we wish you all the best. Bye-bye.